Hello and welcome. I am Essence Wilson, co founder and chief strategy officer at Communities First Inc. This is our Community Candor series where we are encouraging you to go make a difference. Today's session is all about taking care of home, tips on home improvements, some resources available in your communities to assist with that. And we just want to position you to make sure that your home is a place that you love to live and that you get all of those improvements and upgrades done. So today, our moderator is Renee Kent. She's our Director of Special Projects. Renee, take it away.
Thank you, Essence, and good afternoon. Welcome to our audience. So glad that you are here with us. Before I introduce our great panelists, I just have a couple of housekeeping items that I want to go over with you. If you have comments, please put them in the chat, and we will address those while we're going through this presentation. And you will see displayed in the comment section as well as on the screen a link for a survey for you to fill out. You'll see it in the beginning and throughout the presentation. Please fill that out and you will be entered into a drawing for a prize. So let's go ahead and get started. Dana, would you mind introducing yourself to our audience?
Certainly. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dana Christian. I am the Executive Director of New Hope Community Development. New Hope is a community-based not-for-profit on the northwest side of the city of Detroit. And we've been for 30 years focused on housing and redevelopment in the area of Southfield, Evergreen, Telegraph, and 6 Mile if you're in the area. And we also focus on community services with our housing, so it's foreclosure prevention, down payment assistance, and home repair, which is what we're talking about today.
Great. Thank you for joining us, Dana. And Tom, would you mind introducing yourself?
Good afternoon. My name is Tom Hutchison. I'm the Executive Director of Genesee County Habitat for Humanity. We serve Genesee County, which is in Flint, Michigan, and in the areas of affordable housing, home ownership, home repair, and financial counseling, as well as neighborhood development projects through our brand program.
Thank you. Great to have you both here. And as Essence mentioned in the welcome, you have joined our Community Candor Session, a program of Communities First Inc. And this is our Go Mad series, Make a Difference series, designed to empower you to make a difference in your community. And our topic today is actually to help you make a difference in your home. So today our guests are going to discuss initiatives in Detroit and Genesee County focused on home improvement tips. As you may know, during COVID, 3 out of 4 homeowners completed a project in their home. Some of those were successful, some of those were unsuccessful, and we're going to share some tips and resources to make sure that you're able to get the work done that you need done in a timely, smooth manner. So let's go ahead and start the discussion with Dana. I know that in your introduction, you mentioned a little bit of background about New Hope. Can you talk about how the organization serves the community in a little bit more detail?
Sure. So New Hope started 30 years ago out of a faith-based initiative with the Catholic Church as well as the neighbors in the area. And it started with renovating former drug houses. And it grew into new construction housing in that neighborhood, taking vacant lots and tearing down abandoned homes and rebuilding new for sale single family houses in the area. And then at some point, the tide kind of shifted and home repair became just as important. So New Hope for about 30 years as well, started helping people with the new the home repair grants through the city of Detroit, as well as the one we're going to talk about a bit here is the NIP and AMP grants from the Federal Home Loan Bank. I know I'm throwing out acronyms, but we'll explain those a bit more. But we worked in home repair for many years, but as well, we work in foreclosure prevention. Back in the financial crisis, people were losing their homes at a rapid rate. So we were working out modifications, as well as down payment assistance. I always forget about that. We do a lot of that. And actually, during COVID, we've done more of that than what we had expected. People are still really buying homes. And so we do a lot of down payment assistance through Michigan State Housing Development Authority, as well as NIP and AMP. And some of our bank partners also have programs where you can go through the trainings, the home buyer education classes, and receive a certification that will allow you to go to a bank, a member bank, and receive down payment assistance. So we do everything in the housing world, from new construction off to services, and home repair is one of our most popular programs.
Can you talk a little bit more about the home repair program and, what that entails, who qualifies for that, how that program works?
Sure, Renee. Those of us that have been around for a long time remember when there were home repair grants through the CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant. I should know my acronyms. The CDBG program with the City of Detroit. And at some point, that became a loan, which is a zero interest loan, which means I call it like a layaway program where, yes, you get the loan, but you don't have to pay any interest on it. You pay back the amount that you borrow. And so that is still a very popular program, but it's difficult to qualify for. And some of the qualifications for that is based upon income, of course. Your income can't be above the 60% area median income, as well as a lot of occupancy requirements. You have to be an occupant of the home, an owner occupant of the home, in order to qualify. And one of the problems that we run into is, yes, a person lives in the home, but they're not the only person on the deed. And so oftentimes they come in and needing, repairs, and they will qualify. They meet the income guidelines. They have all the data that we need to qualify them, but there's another person on the deed. Maybe the home was left to you by a parent, and it was yourself and your brother. And that brother is really not living in the home, but is still on the deed. Something like that would disqualify you from being qualified for the zero interest loan program. And we have a lot of other stories of disqualification in these programs, which makes it a little difficult because it's so needed. Home repair is one of the priorities in every community, particularly in ours on the northwest side of Detroit, but all of Detroit. And zero interest loan program is a great tool that we wish people would prepare themselves for better before they come in with an application expecting to get awarded. And it is a loan, and it's a great loan. It's much better than a bank loan for the bankers in the room. But if you were to get a bank loan, you wouldn't have some of the same problems that you would qualifying for a subsidy. This is still a subsidy program, even though it's a 0% loan program. I hope that answers your question, Renee. I probably went off the tangent. But yeah, so that is one. And then the other home repair service that we provide is a national program, and it's through the Federal Home Loan Bank. And this would apply in the Flint area as well. Nationally, there are member banks of what's called the Federal Home Loan Bank. And we work particularly with the Federal Home Loan Bank member of Indianapolis. And our member right now, this particular time, we've done it before, is Michigan State University Credit Union. And so right now we are processing lots and lots of folks coming in to apply for the grant, which means this one is not a loan, but it's very competitive. It's competitive across the entire country. And each member bank gets a set amount of funds that they can provide to homeowners for home repair. And it's only for certain types of modifications to your home, repairs to your home. I shouldn't say modifications. It has to be repairs. So for an example, if you want to come in and have electrical work done, you want a new electrical panel done. If your electricity in your home is fine, sure, you may want a new electrical panel, but it's not a repair because there's nothing wrong with it. So it's a home repair grant for for repairs only, not for modifications, not for home improvements. And that's a difference between the zero interest loan program, which you can do some improvements. You can remodel your kitchen because it is a loan, you're paying it back, but the grant is not being paid back through the Federal Home Loan Bank. And the other difficulty with the NIP and AMP, I need to tell you what that is. NIP is the Neighborhood Improvement Program, and the AMP is the Accessibility Modification Program. They're both through the Federal Home Loan Bank, and we administer both. NIP is for regular residents and families up to $7,500 for repairs only. Accessibility modification, the AMP program, is for those that are disabled and need disability modifications in their home, barrier-free modifications in their home. And they can also receive other work in their home for the AMP program that's not barrier-free, as long as they are receiving barrier-free. So here's another problem that we run into. Folks that need modifications, accessibility modifications, have already received them, but they need home repair. And so now they're competing for the regular NIP program, the Neighborhood Improvement Program, the $7,500, versus the Accessibility Modification Program, because you don't need a ramp, or you don't need the rail guards, and you don't need anything to make your home barrier free. So we get a lot of those families coming in, and we get inundated sometimes with applications, and then only to result in 5, 6, 7, 12 applications being approved. So we try to diminish a lot of that by having group education programs starting in February to talk about what you need to do to be ready to apply for these programs, so you can learn about all our home repair programs and understand what they are before you waste your time and give us all this information that we don't keep and we give back to you, only for you to apply again next year and try to come back and give us the same information. So we ask that people come and contact us around January, so we can go through these programs with everyone in February. You can get ready in March, so that in April your application is ready when they release the application for the NIP and the AMP, or we can get you in with the zero interest loan program should you not qualify for the NIP and AMP through the Federal Home Loan Bank. We still like to help you with home repair as best we can. And those are the main three that we work with. I know I'm going on and on.
No, that's helpful. I do have a couple of quick questions. While we're on the topic, is there you said the NIP program, Neighborhood Improvement Program, is a $7,500 grant. Is there a maximum amount for the AMP program for the accessibility modification?
It is. It's $10,000.
Okay.
Uh-oh, I'm back to an echo. Sorry.
And for the 0% loan, what's the dollar amount that you're limited to borrow?
Up to $25,000.
Okay. And you mentioned that particular program, you can do home improvements, upgrade your bathroom, kitchen. Are there other requirements though? Like, do you have to have like a health and safety analysis done when you do the 0%?
Yes, because it is still a CDBG program, so you will have to have an inspection to make sure that you have no lead issues in your home. Lead is a really big issue. Lead remediation is pretty costly, but the city and HUD, quite frankly, is interested in making sure that all homes that have lead is remediated prior to them approving any other funds. So yes, it is a costly expense to have your lead remediated if you have it, but you do have to have an inspection to make sure that there are no lead issues. Now, there may be other health and safety issues, and when the inspector comes out, if you've asked to get your bathroom remodeled, but your porch is falling down, they will require you to fix that first, because that helps the value of the home anyway and protects you. So they will require you to add health and safety issues into the loan before you can just get your bathroom remodeled. So it would modify your request for your bathroom, but we want to make sure that you're safe. We want to make sure your children don't fall on the broken down porch. So yes, you would want to do that. But the other problem is some people will decide they don't want to apply because they really wanted to do the bathroom, and then now the city is aware that you have a health and safety issue. So we recommend that people go ahead and get that taken care of.
And then I wanted to ask about timing, because you mentioned that there's an educational component in February that you encourage applicants to go through so that they're ready to apply. For all of the programs that you mentioned, for example, the grant programs, is it best to apply early in the year, or is that the only time you can apply?
So for the 0% loan through the city of Detroit, that one's city of Detroit only, you can apply all year round. Right now, because of COVID, there's been a moratorium on them processing the applications, but we are still accepting them and adding them to the queue. There's some difficulty with contractors and due to COVID coming inside homes where people actually live, they decided to put a hold on the program. So, but we can still accept applications because the funds have to be spent. And so we still accept applications. Just know that the work won't be performed until Detroit LISC and the city of Detroit open it up for processing again. So we still want people to come in all year round for the program. And then if they don't apply and qualify for any of those programs, we do try to refer them to any of our bank partners that may have some help with home improvement or second loans or anything on their homes, particularly if it's a health and safety issue and we know you could qualify. We want to make sure that, but for the fact that your deed was wrong or your taxes weren't up to speed, you would be able to qualify with a regular traditional bank versus a subsidy program. So yes, the answer is yes, year round for zero interest loan. But for NIP and AMP, it's a really quick turnaround. They open up the program. The application process opens for the member banks at a certain date of the year. This year was May 1st. So we try to get our applications prepared prior to May 1st, which is why in February we start talking about this. We start telling people what to expect, what to gather, and then when the time is ready, we start sending applications to our member bank so they can just hit send when the May 1st application comes out, because it's the same date across the entire country. And all the member banks are submitting against the rest of the competitive banks for those same funds. Now, they have allowed each bank to have so many, but if they don't spend the money within a certain amount of time, it starts to dwindle. So yes, it's only a certain time for the NIP and AMP, and it's the beginning of spring. We never know what the date is because they don't offer it until they get the new income limits in for that year.
And I'm just curious, I know that you primarily service Detroit. If somebody is interested in accessing the neighborhood improvement program dollars or the AMP dollars, and they live, outside of Detroit, outside of Wayne County, where should they go?
So we ask that members go online to the Federal Home Loan Bank website and look to see what the nearest member bank is. The banks actually administer on behalf of the Federal Home Loan Bank because they are members. It sounds like it's a bank, but it's not. It's a membership organization for banks that are involved in community development. And so when you find a member bank, the member bank themselves can process the application, but they use us for the outreach and the application processing to kind of minimize the part that they have to do so that they can just get applications in. So if you aren't in the Detroit area and aren't working with us in our area, because we're only working in the District 1 area for the NIP and AMP program this year, you can find on Federal Home Loan Bank of Indianapolis who is your member bank, and then that member bank will tell you if they process applications or if they have a partner, community partner, which is in our case, New Hope. As well, I know you Snapback is doing it. I also know Central Detroit Christian is doing it, and I'm not sure who else in the city of Detroit is doing it, but I'm sure in the Genesee and Flint area, there's a member bank that's also participating.
So we'll make sure that we post the link for the Federal Home Loan Bank so that members in the audience who are outside of Detroit can look to see who's participating in their area. And I have a couple of more questions, but I want to make sure we give Tom some time. So we'll come back to them. And I just thank you for sharing all of that information. I know it was a lot, but we have put, the link to your organization, and we'll also put the Federal Home Loan Bank link in the comment section so people can look up that information as well. And then we'll come back to some additional questions later on in the discussion. So thank you, Dana.
Sure.
And Tom, I'd like to give the floor to you and hoping that you can tell us a little bit about Habitat for Humanity of Genesee County and the programs that you're offering.
Thank you. So I'll pick up where Dana left off. In Genesee County, you can go, there are two places that I'm aware of that you can apply for the NIP and AMP program, and that's through either us, or you can also go through Metro Housing. We do, we offer a couple of similar programs as Dana. However, we use funds a little bit differently. So we have the Flint Home Improvement Fund, and that's a fund where residents that are under 80% of the area median income can qualify for a 0% interest sliding scale loan. So based on your income determines the amount of money that you pay back on that loan. And that money is paid back at a 0% interest. For people that are over 80% of the area median income, we've worked with partner banks to develop unsecured home repair products that people can qualify for. So the way that we serve, we focus on, like I said, folks that are under 80% of the area median income. And for home repair, we have funds for the Home Improvement Fund. We manage the NIP and AMP programs. We have emergency repair funding. We have veteran repair funding. We have senior repair funding. And then we also have flexible funding through donations and foundations. So generally how we do the intake process is somebody will come to Habitat that's looking for home repairs, and we have a list of, a general application, and a list of supporting documents that goes along with that. From there, we can sort of put together one funding source or various funding sources to meet the needs of that homeowner. And so we might be pulling, depending on what that person needs and what that person qualifies for, we might be pulling from various fundings for accessibility modifications. So to put a ramp on your house, a different source of funding to replace your roof, a different source of funding to do mechanical repairs like your furnace or water heater or something like that. And so it's not sort of a program by program basis. All of our repair services fall under one umbrella department that you come to and apply for. When you come in, we also work with partner organizations. So outside of Habitat, American Red Cross has a program where they'll replace your smoke detectors and CO detectors. And so we'll get you qualified for that program. Consumers Energy has a Helping Neighbors program where you can get various weatherization services and things like that. So we'll help you apply for that program. And also if you qualify, there's a Michigan State Lead Safe Homes program, which does lead abatement. all of those programs are very, very specific. And so oftentimes we'll use those partnerships to get you the repairs that you need through those programs. And then we can focus on filling the gaps to make sure that you're getting your needs met. So that's sort of an overview of our home repair program. The biggest repairs that we see are a lot of roofs, a lot of furnaces, ramps and accessibility modifications. And I think that those are probably our biggest ones. And then across the board, anything else that you can possibly imagine that can go wrong in a house, we'll work to cover that. Outside of home repair, Habitat is known for our construction program. We have fully rehabbed homes and new construction homes that we sell for 0% interest mortgages to families and individuals that don't necessarily qualify for traditional financing through a bank. We have certified HUD homebuyer education courses and a financial opportunity center through Habitat. And we just launched Almost Home program, which is a very, very small program. But what that's for is when people are living in poverty housing or are in a really bad housing situation that they need to get out of, and they don't qualify for homeownership yet, but that's their main financial goal, is to become a homeowner. We have rentals that people can stay in while they work with our Financial Opportunity Center to start breaking down some of those barriers that they have towards homeownership.
Thank you. I mean, it's really great, the work that both you and Dana are doing in providing these resources to the community. And we thought that it was important, if we were going to have a conversation about home improvement and caring for your home, that we highlighted the funds that are available for individuals, no matter where you are and what you can afford, that there are programs available to help you make improvements to your home, whether it's cosmetic or you're addressing health and safety issues. So I appreciate you, sharing that information. And on the other side of that, for individuals who want to do some do-it-yourself type of projects, can you maybe talk about the Habitat Restore, which is a great asset in many of our communities, and how people can, utilize that in their projects?
Absolutely. I love the Restore. So Habitat affiliates are a little bit different everywhere you go. We're all under the same international organization, but every affiliate is run completely independently. So in your county, there might be a few Restores. In Genesee County, we just have the one Restore. Our Restore, all Restores focus on housing-related materials, so building materials, furniture, tools, basically anything that you would need to rehab your house. It is mostly donation based. We do buy some new things like paint supplies, things like that to resell, and we always have those stocked. But we sort of operate very much in the same way that a Goodwill or a Salvation Army does, in that we're donation based. So what we're selling in the Restore changes multiple times a day, but those are our focuses. The things that we sell the most of, ton of appliances, a lot of washers, dryers, stoves, things like that. Because of federal regulations, we cannot sell furnaces or water heaters, but we do have programs to help with that. We sell a lot of furniture, a lot of couches, a lot of dining room sets. We also have our Urban Wood program, where we have partnered with 4 different local mills, as well as the Genesee County Conservation District, and we sell locally milled lumber here. So this is really high quality, mostly hardwoods that are slabs, some are boards, but we sell a lot of walnut, oak, ash is a really big one. And the the species diversity that we get in woods is very exciting. I am a woodworker, and so it's one of my favorite things. It's one of my favorite things about the Restore.
I love the Restore because you can find just about anything that you're looking for. The staff is always great, always helpful. But more than that, you're also helping a great organization, right? Can you talk a little bit about the pricing too?
Everything that we offer is at least 50% of what you'll get in a Home Depot or a big box store. And from there, the deals get better. So, of course, it depends on the condition of the product and things like that. But everything across the board is greatly reduced from what the prices that you'd get at a regular store.
And who doesn't love saving money?
I love the Restore as well. I'm sorry, I just have to say that I recommend that everyone, you go to do something even in your own home and you have some extra material, drop it off at the Restore.
Thank you for
it's
that.
just helpful to others.
Yeah, absolutely. It's full circle. And so thinking about the work that you do, your rehab and your new construction work, a lot of that involves pulling in volunteers, or at least it has historically. Is that still the case?
Much less. So we have a few volunteers that work with us like full-time employees. And those are really all of the volunteers that we're bringing onto our construction site right now. However, we are working with MIOSHA to put together a plan to start bringing some of those individual volunteers and bigger volunteer groups back out to our build site. And we're hoping to incrementally start doing that in June. So we're not currently taking on any new volunteers for our construction site. However, we will be very soon. And so if you're interested in giving back to the community or just want to hone your construction skills, that's a really great place to do it. We also have, through our homeowner or our home buyer education class, we also offer home repair workshops, which has also been halted because of COVID, but we'll be reinstating those very soon as well. So keep an eye out. And I know that there's also really great home maintenance workshops in Detroit through Brick and Beam.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think that's an important point. As you're taking on home improvement projects, getting that experience and seeing some of that work done helps to definitely give you a better understanding of what you're getting into, as well as helping out a great organization and helping out a family with their housing needs. So I'd like to turn the floor over to Essence, who is going to talk about do-it-yourself versus engaging a contractor, and how not to get in over your head and manage your expenses and things like that. And then I'd also like for our speakers to think about and maybe provide some information on how you connect people to contractors for the work that they need done, whether it's for the grant program or a big concern and a big question for folks is, engaging the right person, because when you don't, that's when, all kinds of craziness can happen. But I'll let Essence talk more about that.
Thank you, Renee. And that was a wealth of information from Dana and from Tom. And I will echo the fact that I do also enjoy the Restore and have found some really good deals there and some great materials. I'm not quite as excited about the wood because I'm not a woodworker, but maybe in the future, right? So just want to give some tips about, taking care of home, right? So when you think about whether or not you should do it yourself or should hire a contractor, here are 5 questions that you could ask yourself. So the first one seems kind of strange, but it's an important one. So, could the work kill you, right? So, if you're talking about roofing, it seems relatively easy and straightforward if you've watched a YouTube video on how to replace your shingles, but the reality is you could fall and could really injure yourself. The same thing with electrical. If you're not experienced in how to do electrical work, that could be very dangerous. So might be something to stay away from. Is it an activity or a project that could destroy your home? If you're not experienced in plumbing and you want to change a fixture, is there the possibility that you could create a leak behind a wall, not know it, and cause major damage? Similarly, if we're talking about electrical, you could start electrical fire, or you could have some faulty wiring if you're not experienced and knowledgeable about how to do that. Is it work that requires a permit? Often the requirement of a permit indicates that there are special tools needed in order to accomplish the job. So definitely something to consider, something to be mindful of. Is it something that you feel confident in doing? Have you looked at YouTube videos and done your research? When you think about whatever that project might be, do you have a reasonable amount of confidence that you can accomplish the task? When you're thinking about research, you can, find books at your local library or bookstore. You can research on YouTube. There are tons and tons of videos that show you how to do things. Obviously, internet searches. And then you can also ask someone else who has experience with that type of activity. And you could also ask them to either mentor you or join you so that you can learn from them as they're doing the work with you. When you're working with contractors, you also want to know that they seem confident. And I can think about a time when we asked someone to do some plumbing work. And as we got into it and we started to talk more, the job was bigger than what we thought. And you could see the person's confidence wane. So initially they were like, oh yeah, no problem. I can take care of that. Not a big deal. And as the conversation continued and we talked about this broader scope of work, they kind of, well, yeah, I can do that. I think I can do it. I should be able to handle that. And we could see that they weren't confident in doing what we asked them to do. You could always ask them about prior experience with a similar type of job and also ask for references and pictures. And, it might seem a little bit, intrusive, but, whether that's phoning a friend, calling somebody that that they've done work for, it's necessary because it can be extremely costly if they are not able to do the job that you're asking them to do. You would want to know if they're licensed, bonded, and insured. And obviously you have to use your own discretion about whether or not you're going to require those things, because there's definitely a difference between a person who is an actual contractor and someone who just does a certain type of work. And you have to kind of weigh the odds, weigh the risk, and we wouldn't be able to provide you with direct guidance on that. But it's definitely a good question to ask. And oftentimes it is going to be more expensive if they have proper credentialing, if they're bonded, if they're insured. But those are things that will protect you from a poor outcome. And if you did have to go to court, those are things that may come up in that conversation. Hopefully that never happens to you, but I think we'll find out a little later in today's conversation that all of us have had not so good experiences at times working with various contractors. When you're thinking about what you're asking your contractor to do, make sure that you can clearly define the scope of work. What is it that you need done? So saying to someone, I want to replace all the carpet in the house, that's great. But the reality is it may also require some work to the underlayment and to, the floorboards and things like that. There are things that you won't necessarily know at face value with the project, but you want to make sure that there's an agreement between yourself and your contractor on what the scope of work looks like. What is it that you're actually asking them to do? Saying replace the faucet. Well, that's nice, but if you're asking them, if you really want them to replace the faucet, upgrade the vanity, and do a few other things, you make sure that you have agreement. And that's really important because oftentimes when we're talking about home repairs, there's this, job creep. So you start out thinking you want one thing and it evolves over time because you think, oh, I could just add this one more thing and do this one other thing. And thinking about my own experience, we had someone doing some work for us in our home, and it started off as a bathroom remodel. So that was great. And he was doing such a really good job. We kind of walked down the hall and said, well, I think we want this closet torn out and we want to redo that. And so the scope of work continued to evolve, and what was supposed to be a 3-week job turned into probably a 4 or 5 month job because we kept adding on things. And in the end, it became frustrating for him because he wanted to move on to other jobs and he didn't have time to take on new clients because we kept consuming his time with other things that we needed. Plan for contingencies, and that could be the job taking longer than what you thought. So if someone tells you it'll take, 2 weeks, just know that it might take a little bit longer than that. And if you have something and you have a hard deadline, make sure that you make that clear and then that you make that known. Otherwise, just in your mind, plan in a little bit of buffer because things do change. And then also financially, you want to keep in mind that, as I gave the example with flooring, as a contractor gets into it, they may find out that other things need to be updated, upgraded, or repaired. So make sure that in your budget, you plan in a little bit of extra money if you're able to, and that could be 10 or 15%, just knowing that things can happen. Then I would also say weigh the costs. When you're thinking about whether or not you should do it yourself or have someone else do it yourself is not always cheaper if you're going to eventually have to have someone else paid to come back in and redo what you messed up. And by the same token, you could hire a contractor, and if you haven't gone through and really had a conversation with them about their prior experience, their references, and you have to hire someone else to come in and redo the job, you just have to weigh the cost on who you're selecting, whether or not you do it yourself, and then if you're picking the right contractor for the work. I will say that it is often cheaper to consider doing some of the work yourself. If you're getting carpet replaced, there's not a lot of technical skill required to pull up the old carpet yourself, cut that up, and put it out on the curb for pickup. But that will save time and save money from the contractor having to do that work. So something to consider when there are things that are not labor intensive, not highly skilled, that could save time or money or resources. Those are some things that whether or not you want to actually get into the actual job yourself, that you may be able to do, and a cleanup would be another example of that. If you, can help like break down boxes, do the sweeping, kind of clean up the area, that may be something that could shave off some costs from working with a contractor. So I just wanted to share those few slides with you in hopes that those were some helpful items. And I would love to hear from either Tom or Dana about, your experiences working with contractors, if you have any additional tips that would be helpful to our audience.
Sure, I can jump in. I think that was really well outlined. And I think that all of those considerations are extremely important when trying to consider if you should contract somebody out or do it yourself. Really, the only thing that I would add to that is if you're not a professional contractor, I think that it's good to work with somebody else and talk through a project with someone else when you're defining that scope of work. So think your very, very detail-oriented type A friend, bring them over and say, this is what I'm trying to do. Because if you bring a contractor in and you just give them sort of a vague outline of what you're looking to have done, that estimate that they give you is going to be an estimate in the absolute truest sense of the word. The only other thing that I really have to add is when you take on work yourself, I think that one of the benefits of going through this pandemic is that COVID has really forced all of us to start thinking on a micro level about things that affect our health and affect the things that are around us. A house is very, very much that same thing. And so you think of a house as this big structure, but it's really a system of various structures. And so when you think of any exterior work, you need to think about, is this something that when you're trying to decide on whether or not you can take it on, something to really, really consider is that moisture is the biggest destructive factor in a house. And so moisture can really break down that wood, can really break down a lot of the building materials and insulation materials in your house. And so that's something to take into account. And then the other thing is, vapors that you may introduce if you're not careful, or if you're upgrading, vapors that you might be trapping in that don't have ventilation to get out of your house. So if you're replacing windows, make sure that there isn't a gas leak in your house. Just make sure that you're thinking about, a lot of people in Michigan have basements and use them as storage. You really need to think through what you're going to store in your basement and its proximity to your furnace, because that circulates air through your house. So you don't want to have any paints next to your furnace. I guess that's not really a home repair thing, but just sort of a general, you just want to make sure that when you're determining on whether or not you should do something yourself, think the project through. Think about your house on a micro level, and also be realistic about the time that you have to complete your project. I know that I've taken on projects that have gone years without completing, much to my wife's annoyance. So just be realistic about your capacity when you're thinking about what you're going to take on and what you won't.
Yeah. Oh, wow, Thomas, you brought up so many good things. And it's a shame that I can probably bring up a few more because it's a lot. But I want to give a story that might help echo some of what you guys have said. But I had a client who had a leak in her home, a roof leak, so she thought, and came to us for a 0 interest loan, which she was approved for, and had the roof done. Well, the contractor who took a look at the roof and got approved to do the roof and actually did the work on the roof, that was over a year ago. Now she still has a leak, and the roof is brand new. And so she's now calling to say, okay, I know I can only get one loan, in 0 interest loan. I'm still in my repayment period, but I still have the same leak. And so my suggestion is to make sure that the contractor that you call out and that you work with is actually going to solve the problem, because it may not have necessarily been the roof. Maybe it was the gutters, maybe it was around the fireplace, the chimney, the flashing, any other thing. But the contractor was a roofer, so he said the roof will fix it. And so, to your point, Thomas, about having your type A friend come with you, or looking at several contractors, will be helpful, because that contractor said, yes, you have a new roof, and she probably needed a new roof. And that's probably great that she has a new roof, but she still has a leak. And now there's mold, and now there's so many issues growing from that particular problem, and we can't help her anymore.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Dana. I think it's our natural tendency to try and self-diagnose. And sometimes we really don't know what the problem or the issue is. And we talk about this all the time in our family when it comes to your car, right? You take your car in because you hear a noise, and then you tell the person, at the counter, oh, I've got a bad muffler, I need a new muffler. Well, it could have been 2 or 3 or 4 other things, but if you tell them that your problem is your muffler, that's what they're going to replace. And I think it's the same thing when we're talking about home repairs. So she may have been better off saying, I have a leak. I'm not sure what the problem is, and then having a couple of folks come out, give estimates, and try and diagnose the issue, and then deciding on what the actual action needed to be. So that's a really, really great point.
And so the good news is that she was required to have insurance to be in the zero interest loan program. So I said to her, you may have an insurance claim, but this time you want to work with an insurance contractor, someone who can analyze the problem for the insurance company and do it the way that the insurance company expects to see the scope and the bid. So I hopefully that will work out for her because she did have insurance, but insurance will cover, this is another little fun fact, insurance will cover the damage that was done due to the leak, but insurance won't cover what was leaking, where the leak was coming in. And they expect you to clear it up as soon as it happens. So if it's old leak from way back last year when she had the roof done, they won't cover it. But if it's a new leak, then they will cover it. They come in and investigate it to see if it's actually old or new. So you want to handle these things long before you've had some real significant damage. Because if they can see that the roof was leaking and it started here and now it's all the way, the damage is all the way in the basement, how big was the leak? If it was just a drip and it made it to the basement, you didn't take care of it immediately, which means they won't cover it. And so we're still working with her to see, if the insurance company will cover it. But these are things you learn when you go to one of the home improvement classes, and just learn and understand how the system works.
Yeah, that's a great point. You cannot let water issues go because they will do a lot of damage in a short period of time. And so the moment that you recognize you have any type of leak, you want to get that addressed as soon as possible, because you don't know how long you've had it. And because you're just now seeing it doesn't mean it hasn't existed. And now you're just seeing it because water moves, right? And so you don't know where it started. But you definitely want to take care of those things as soon as possible. And, I think, it's nice to talk about, redoing your kitchen, redoing your bathroom, but there are a lot of things that we can do around our house on a regular basis, at least annually, to ensure that we don't have larger problems later on, which I think leaks definitely falls into that. But especially if you're living in the Detroit community, I'm sure other communities experience this, taking care of your drains, yearly having them snaked, because if you have to take care of your drain in an emergency, that means you've got a bigger mess, right? And then gutters, that was mentioned earlier, making sure that your gutters are cleaned and are working properly, so that you don't have other issues down the line. Are there any other things that you've noticed in your work or come across personally that you would recommend people to keep an eye on and maintenance regularly so they don't have other bigger issues?
Yeah, I can tell you at my own home, because water, as you said, travels and it's a big problem. And I'm an amateur gardener, meaning I go around and move the soil around all the time. And sometimes things grow and sometimes they don't. And so just from erosion around my house, every now and then I'll see some water coming into my basement. In the Detroit area, I think I've lived there my whole life and I've always thought all basements are wet, but it doesn't have to be. And so over time, by me gardening and replanting and transplanting and deciding I don't like this and tearing this out, I've seen where the soil has eroded from around the house. And periodically I'll get just a little puddle of water in my basement. And so now I've learned that I have to go back in and re-soil around the whole house to make sure that over time the erosion isn't allowing the water to come in my home. And so I make my sons get out there with the pea pods and pea gravel and the soil and mix it and fill it around the house and then start my garden all over again.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. And so thinking about these major repairs that we've talked about, well, maybe you don't want to replace your whole kitchen, right? Because that can be pretty expensive. But I like that Tom mentioned earlier that one of the things that they offer at the Habitat Resource that I've seen a lot of people purchase is their appliances, right? And so sometimes, in spite of doing a full remodel, there are smaller things that you can do to improve your space, right? I purchased new appliances the beginning of last year, and it felt like I had a brand new kitchen, right? I actually had someone come over and say, "Oh, you redid your kitchen." Nope, just appliances. So there are small things that you can do to improve your living space that don't necessarily entail doing a whole renovation project. And so I just would love for the group to share, any suggestions or comments that you have that people should think about in spite of a full-on remodel.
I would say a fresh coat of paint goes a long way. Changing your color scheme. And some of that is not the major rehab stuff. It's, decorative elements that you can add in just to refresh a space. So those would be the things. Paint, and I have got a paint story that I won't tell, but just know that it is possible to mess up paint, but it is an opportunity to learn for sure. And you can do a really nice job. That's a good family bonding experience, if you will, to paint a room together. So paint and decorative elements can really refresh a space.
I like that one a lot. I think that paint is probably the biggest impact. I really enjoy making and playing with trim and finishes, making built-ins, small sort of DIY projects that you can add to your house for storage that can really change the feel of a room.
I would also add art on the walls is another good way to change the appearance of a space. And it doesn't have to be something super fancy or is super expensive. There are a lot of DIY painting projects that you can do that look extremely professional, and you can do it for minimal cost. Again, I'll tag that as a great family bonding experience as well. We've got some paintings that I did with our 2-year-old, and they're going to go on the wall as soon as I get the finishing spray to put on them. And they look like they could hang in a museum. And that's probably just mommy's opinion, but they'll look good.
Yes, mommies have to like all of the artwork with the babies, that's for sure. I've recently liked changing out the throw rugs. Even if I have carpet, sometimes I'll put a rug down just to kind of change the look of a room, add some different color and some, pop on your walls and on your floor. That can actually, upgrade a space.
Another good one is the knobs and pulls on cabinet drawers and cabinets. Again, something really simple, something easy to do. All you need is a screwdriver, and it can really change the way that the room looks.
Plumbing fixtures are actually really easy to replace as well. All you need is a crescent wrench, and you can pull as long as you turn the water all the way off before you do it. It isn't too hard to replace a faucet. And to go back to the house maintenance things that generally need to be updated. Speaking of plumbing, most people's drain, if you have the white plastic drain, that you can just take apart with your hands, and the P trap sort of looks like a little belly under your sink. That should be cleaned out about every year, and is really easy to do yourself.
Yeah, those are all great tips, and I'll just add, in thinking about making small changes, certainly these aren't cosmetic, but any little changes that you can do to improve your energy efficiency and consumption of energy, goes a long way in helping you save money and adds to your or improves your budget. So there are a lot of utility companies that have weatherization assessments and programs. And I think, Tom, you mentioned one when you were talking. So I would definitely recommend, reaching out, getting an assessment if you haven't already. And oftentimes they provide you with, a brand new thermostat, as well as, other things to help improve the efficiency of your home. So definitely keep that in mind as you're making upgrades. You can do something small like that, or if you're doing a major project, think about how you can improve the efficiency of your home.
Even if you don't go through a program, the rebates are pretty fantastic. I went to Home Depot and picked up a smart thermostat that I could control from my phone. It was $104 after tax with a $100 rebate, so I got it for $4, which is exceptional. Another thing is, maintenance. Just make sure that if you have an air conditioner, that you clean it every year, because that increases the efficiency of your AC unit exponentially. And also just making sure that you're cleaning out your furnace filter every few months. And remember, again, if you have an AC unit, that is still pulling air through that furnace filter. And so even in the summer months, if you have an AC unit, you should still be replacing your furnace filter regularly.
Great point. Thank you for that. And so I think somehow we have gone through our time, and it's time for us to wrap up this discussion. But I definitely appreciate all the information and resources that have been provided. Just again, for those in the audience, we've provided a lot of the links to that information in the comment section, so you'll have access to that. If you haven't already filled out your survey, make sure that you fill that out. We'll show that on the screen again, and then it's also in the comment section as well. And I'll let our panelists, share one final thought if there's anything that they want to highlight for the audience, or anything that wasn't shared that they want to just throw out there for the audience. And I'll turn it over to Tom.
I just want to share that Communities First got a great historic preservation award. And I want to commend you guys on that, and all the great work that you do. I'm always so impressed. I've lived next to your projects, and thanks for having me on, and thanks for all the great work that you're doing.
Likewise, thank you. And Dana?
I'll just share our New Hope email and website. Anyone wants to hear more or reach out to us, we can be reached at New Hope Community Development, all one word, at yahoo.com, or newhopedetroit.com. Did I say that right? newhopedetroit.com, yes. And reach out. If you apply for these programs and you don't get awarded, look for another program and apply again and keep trying. There's help out here. It is difficult to get, but don't give up. We need our communities to be maintained, and we need value in our homes. So just keep trying.
Thank you, Dana. In essence?
I'll just, kind of quickly recap and a couple things that I thought of. Make sure that you walk around your home, at least annually. I think there's such a tendency to either spend time in the front or the back, but just make sure you do that walk around and see if anything looks abnormal, and then know what your normal and abnormal is. I think Dana made a great point earlier about basements and, thinking that that it's not a big deal or that they are always wet. And that's not true, right? So know what's normal and what's not normal. Be sure to address problems and issues early, because it's probably going to be cheaper and less, it's going to probably be less costly and a smaller project if you address it early. And then I did really appreciate the simple ways that we thought of how you can update and upgrade your home and, kind of create a new feel and a new look in a space for not a tremendous amount of cost. And then I just want to thank Tom and Dana for sharing such great and rich resources. And also, the piece that it's often missing is the money, right? People know generally what they need, and they know what needs to change in their homes, but they don't often have access to the money to do so. So thank you for sharing those programs, and also the ways that people can connect with you.
Great, thank you, Essence. And as we mentioned when we started, this is part of our Go Mad series, Go Make a Difference series. And so this is the finale, but please go back and check out our sessions that we covered on redistricting, what to do in case of an emergency, and volunteerism and addressing blight as well. And look out in the future. We have some more informative sessions that we'll be hosting in the coming weeks. And I think our next sessions are going to be focusing on credit repair and career tools and resources, finding a job and improving your chances of finding a job, while we're still dealing with a pandemic. So stay tuned for those to come and check out what we've posted in this Go Make a Difference series. And then also we have a lot of financial tools and resources that we've hosted classes on over the past year. So please, check those out as well. Thank you again for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.